Joining us today, we have three special guests who are going to provide their professional as well as personal expertise and guide us through the discussion of the state of the American family vacation. Let me introduce to you Dan Lazar. He is president of Chatter, and he is going to share with us some family bonding and leisure travel consumer insights to a real pop-in soundtrack. Do your best drop there, Dan. Do your best drop. We also have Leslie Ferraro, EVP, Global Marketing, Sales, and Travel Operations, Walt Disney Parks and Resorts. She's going to discuss her perspectives on family vacations and the Disney experience. And last but certainly not least, we have Susan Newman, Ph.D., social psychologist, parenting expert, as well as author. And she's going to share her professional advice on the importance of family bonds and shared memories. Thank you all for staying. And just so you know, this is going to be a nice, lively conversation, which at the end, I am going to open up to you. So, think about questions. If we're not asking or the questions you want to know, then at the end, that's your chance. So, I'm going to kick off this discussion with you, Dan. I'm going to pick on you because you're the only man. So, you get the first question. As president of Chatter, you recently conducted a study of parents and their needs. And vacationing did come up. What was the research about, and what did it find?
Well, we studied about 400 families over a year and a half, so a lot of families, all shapes and sizes, all across the country. And we focused on the relationships within the family, family dynamics, and we learned three real important things. The first thing we learned was that family bonds are harder to develop and nurture than ever before. And that's because life has become, for most families, a forgettable blur. Things are moving really fast. Both parents are working. Kids are working harder than ever at school. And of course, as we all know, phones and whatnot are distracting us from each other. So it's very hard to make connections in the family unit because life is moving by so fast. So that's the first thing we learned. The second thing we learned is that parents recognize this and they don't like it. They realize it's just the way things are, but they have found a way to adapt. And that way is by making memories. So this was one of the more interesting points. That in the past it used to be that just memories were something that you had. Well, now parents are very purposeful about making them. They actually develop these moments. And because memories are something you can carry with you through this forgettable blur of life. So that's the second thing, making memories. The third thing we learned was that there's one way of making memories that families feel is more powerful than any other way. It's a way that helps you escape the daily grind. It's a way that helps you bond over shared experiences and shared fun. And it's a way that helps you discover new things. And when you discover, you remember things. And that is, of course, the family vacation. But it's not just a vacation like we used to take. It is just like making memories a very purposeful necessity now. It's almost like first aid to families. They need to have this to make these memories.
So Susan, how do you feel about that? Because obviously we can make memories everywhere. But what is it about the vacation that makes those memories more potent, more strong in terms of bonding with your family?
Well, children want their parents' attention, and because of the pressures, the scatteredness, the schedules of normal life at home, they can't get it. A vacation focuses the parents on the children and builds memories. And the memories really are the building blocks of future relationships. They help how you relate to your siblings, how do you relate to your parents, and memories in this way build traditions. But in terms of the missing childhoods, vacations put the child back in childhood.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty strong statement there, that actually vacations have changed to meet the demands of a changing family dynamic. Now, Leslie, Dan had to go out and find families. Here, families come to you. You have a very passionate family base. They tell you when their expectations have been met. They tell you when they have not been met. How do you utilize consumer insight, like Dan say, but in a much broader spectrum?
Well, we use a lot of consumer insights at Disney. We talk to our guests, to the people who are here. We talk to the people who aren't here and who aren't coming. So we really use a broad base to make all our decisions, because the better we understand our consumers and our guests, the better the experiences that we can develop to make sure that we're meeting those needs and meeting those changing needs of families and of those needs for those vacations that are all important in becoming more important. So we use a lot of different listening posts to really understand. We make our decisions, we develop our strategies, we develop our experiences and our guest service based on all of that, and how we ultimately communicate to our guests. So it's very important to all we do at Disney.
And it's interesting how the family vacation, actually how the family dynamic has changed. Now you have families saying, we don't even sit down to dinner anymore. Our children's lives are overscheduled. I even heard this horrifying thing in the news that children, younger children, like 5, 6, and 7, are beginning to multitask. And I just thought that was the most horrifying word for a child. The child should only believe he's a dragon for the entire day. There should be no multitasking in childhood. Let's talk to the point more about family life becoming a blur and why that is such a problem.
Well, it's a problem because children don't have a base. What the vacation does, it makes you feel tied to the family unit. It gives children a sense of security, a sense of belonging, because they're acting as a unit, as opposed to Johnny's going off to this lesson, the sister's going to ballet, there's no time for dinner. No one feels connected. And this vacation gives you a chance to be connected, be a tight bond. And what you're actually doing is building for the future and how your family will relate. And will this become, and usually it does, become a tradition.
Wonderful. So actually I think we have some video that really amplifies what we're talking about. So why don't we hear from our Disney families for a moment, just to give us some street cred.
I feel happy because we don't really get to spend much time together, like I said before, and this is the first time in a long time that we've gone out like on a vacation or something together.
Because, they like going out. They got many new places, doing different things. We like it too, so it keeps us together. Like everybody always, they want to do like their own thing, so for once we gotta do the same thing.
When the day and age we live in, there's so much going on and so much turmoil and so many children that are never going to have these good memories, and I hope that we can instill that in our children, that they had a very good upbringing and their parents tried to show them all the love and take them as many places as they could.
This is emotional for you. Why?
Because they mean the world to me.
That reminds me a lot of the focus groups I do for Disney, and it's interesting, this forgettable blur that really is the state of affairs in families today is not something that is optional. I mean, it's just, life's hard, and you have to work as two parents, and you got to keep your job, right? You can't just show up. And college is more competitive than ever, so kids have to work extra hard. And it's interesting, why does that matter? Well, it matters because, at least this is what parents are telling me, that at home, it's ironic, but you're not really at home anymore. You're not yourself. You're stressed, you're distracted, and probably one of the most powerful things I heard from a father, he said, the reason I love taking vacations with my family is because my kids get to see me the way I was meant to be. Away from work, away from all the stresses, and I can just be a father. And it's a real powerful, important part. So to your point, your question, why is this forgettable blur important? That's why. And that's why vacations are so important.
Right. And in so many vacations that I see, because no matter where I go, I'm surrounded by people on their vacation, it always amazes me, because I grew up in a very different sort of vacation family, how much importance is put on the child having an amazing time. And they're actually almost overscheduled even in their vacation, from seashell finding expeditions to learning scuba to, and I always just want to ask the parents, but what are you doing for you? Well, why is it always about the child? Does that make me, I'm going to be the most selfish mother in the world, right? But I'm like, well, what about, I'm paying for the thing. But seriously, like, what, as a child, how important is it for the child to see the parents have a good time?
That's important, but less important, and one of the major pitfalls is on vacations, parents want to create this perfect vacation, be sure the memories are wonderful, and you don't really realize what memory is going to stick and what is going to be important. And I was here a good number of years ago with my sister-in-law, niece, and nephew. And we were standing out on one of the plazas, and my sister-in-law looked at me and said, "You can't possibly let this child go back to Texas without having been on Space Mountain." I went, "Oh, you're not taking him?" She said, "No, you are." So I took him, and we were talking recently about memories. Now, I remember her totally guilting me into this Space Mountain ride. She remembers nothing of that. What is important to her was that her son, my nephew, was being totally obnoxious, bouncing off walls. She does not remember the guilt trip she played on me at all. But what even not so wonderful memories become humorous and become part of family lore that keeps, and tales that keep getting retold and retold. So the memories are very important, and they don't have to be these glowing, wonderful, divine memories, because you don't know what people will remember. And even siblings will remember a situation in a different way. So, as you're a parent trying to plan this very perfect vacation, think that it doesn't have to be that perfect. The memories will create themselves.
That is a great advice that I'm sure all parents want to hear, because back to Dan's research, parents are now actually creating vacations specifically to make memories. So I can only imagine the pressure that they're putting on themselves to make sure their child has the most glorious time in the world. And yet what you're saying is even the bad times are going to become good times. If they read Space Mountain and they were scared, then 3 years later they come back and now they can conquer it. That must be a great feeling. And Leslie, you can speak to this. Obviously, Disney understands the idea of the development of the child and the rewards they have coming to a place like that.
Absolutely. We hear a lot from our guests and from our consumers that they love a Disney vacation for a couple of reasons that makes it unique to making those memories. The first is that you really get an escape when you're at Disney. Parents tell us that they feel like they enter another world. The minute they walk into a Disney park, they're transformed. They leave the real world behind. It's both a physical transformation as well as an emotional transformation. They've entered a new place and a new time, and the real world's very far behind. They're less distracted. They're more in the moment, and that's really important when they think about all the distractions and the blur, to actually have that luxury of being in the moment, which is great. The other thing that we hear that is very different for families when they come to Disney is that they have parents have the chance to become kids again, and they get to have fun together. And there, to Dan's point, parents love their kids to get to see them as kids again and having fun and being on the same level, and they get a really deeper bonding because of that. And kids love to see their parents riding on rides, laughing their heads off, just being kids again and not having all the pressure and just being more relaxed. We hear that over and over again. And finally, the other thing that's really great, to Susan's point about making everything have to be perfect, parents really let their kids take the lead in planning a Disney vacation. It's the one place where kids can discover, they have a little more independence. They lead the way. This is their turf. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It's all fun and it's all great. There's something for everybody. Everybody has a great time. And that really resonates when you're talking about making these great memories. Remember the time that we went on Tower of Terror for the first time and everybody was scared, but we all did it, and it's really great. And everybody will have their own take on it, but it still makes those memories that last, and it really allows everybody to be in the moment, have fun, and take on different roles, which is really unique.
And how much time do we have to do this in? What is childhood? How many years do we have these memory-making moments? This window of opportunity.
It's a great question. We explored that question. When do you make memories? And what we learned is that really there are 9 critical years for making memories, almost like prime time.
Prime time.
It's between ages 5 and 13. Before age 5, kids are often too young to remember what they're doing on vacation. Now, it's not to say that doesn't matter. There's imprinting, and of course the parents remember, but the kids usually don't. After age 13, as probably many of us can attest to, they want nothing to do with us anymore. So, I can tell you a story. On my way, I'm from Los Angeles, and on my way out the door, I have a 4.5-year-old, and I was leaving the house, and he said to me, "Dad, I wish I were you." Now, and I said, "Look at this thinning hair. You really see me?" But he's not going to say that when he's 13, right? So it's between 5 and 13 that there are these. It's a prime time. It's prime time. It's not that it doesn't matter after 13 or before 5, but 5 to 13 is this prime time for making memories.
That's wonderful. I actually think we also have some video about this. So let's go to our Disney families to see how they feel.
I think that family time is incredibly important. Anytime that you get to spend with your kids and just introduce them to new and exciting things is a valuable experience that they can take for themselves, for now, and for the future for their children. When you have children, time seems to flash in the blink of an eye. 18 summers, when you put it in that perspective, it seems like a very, very short time. If it's done right and it's done with the right ideas in mind and the right planning, you can make 18 summers last forever.
Robert, I'm just going to add to that. 18 summers, we have a lot longer than that. Kids are staying home until their 30s. And then they're off on their own.
So apparently there is time. There's going to be those years
that vacation was very important to us to celebrate Thaddeus' 5th birthday, and we wanted to create memories with the entire family that'll last forever. Walt Disney World is all about escaping from reality and letting your imagination go and having fun and not even worrying about what's back at home.
We spend too much time, I think, these days focusing in on work and not enough time, getting away with our families.
Time is short. It really is, and you don't understand that until you get to be about our age and you have children. So time is of the essence. You have to do it now.
So between 14 and maybe 19, no, they don't care about their parents. But at 20, it comes back again. 20 to 30, I was like, well, that was really nice when you paid for everything. Right. I think I would like to join you again. Leslie, I have a funny story. My family, my aunt and uncle, always take their grandkids on a vacation every year. They've been doing it for 5 years. And my cousins, the parents of these kids, think, oh, thank goodness, a week without kids. And but this year, they are taking them to Walt Disney World. And a funny thing happened to the whole family dynamic. All of a sudden, my cousins were like, well, wait a minute. We have to be there when she sees Cinderella for the first time. That's our moment. We want to be there with it. And then the great-grandfather wants to come. So you have 16 family members, 4 generations coming down to Walt Disney World. And how does Disney approach that? Obviously, you have this span of generations that really want to share the same moment, in a sense.
Yeah, well, we see that a lot. We have a lot of multi-generational travel here at Disney. And I think one of the reasons it works so well is exactly what you're highlighting, is that there is something for everybody. There are all these great experiences. There's time together and there's time apart. And that's what people are also looking for on vacation. And so we have things for all ages, all breadths of walks of life. We have the 4 kind of life stages of childhood that we see. And it's the first 4 years while you're, deer in the headlight parents trying to figure it all out. It's still a great time to bring your children, even though a lot of them don't remember. The parents remember. They hold that memory, and they bring it through to the children to remind them of, remember the first time you met Cinderella. My own girls are very similar. I have 3 girls, and they love seeing the pictures and hearing the stories of the first time they came to the park, the first time they met one of their favorite characters. So it does ring very true. And then you move into kind of the golden years, that 5 to 9, where they love the characters. It's still very magical, but they can ride the big kid rides. They can go on Tower of Terror and all the other great rides that there are. So they get to have the best of all worlds. Hey, that sounds like a song.
And that's our break. We're going to start to a little bit here.
So that's a really great time. The kids still want to be with the parents. It's very fun. Then you kind of move into the storms of ruin years, those tween years where the kids still like to be with the parents, but friends are having an increasing influence. Parents are feeling this sense of urgency to develop. They only have a couple more years before they hit that teen years when the kids don't want anything to do with them, where they have that sense of urgency. They have to create those memories now, or because they think they might need those good memories as ammunition when they hit those teen years. And it's also very emotional, very important that they realize that the time is short, it's fleeting, and their time with their kids is coming, quickly to an end. And then we have the teen years, and that's still an important time. We still see a lot of families travel here with teens who love it, and it is that special time when the kids get to be kids again. Mm-hmm. I remember going to Disneyland with one of my older sisters and her daughter, who was 15, and we went, and her daughter wanted to buy a Sleeping Beauty dress, a 15-year-old, and she put it on, and my girls were real little at the time, and she was holding hands, skipping through the park, a 15-year-old wearing this dress, and my sister was like, oh, it just reminds me of when she was little, and I don't want her to grow up. But so you get those moments, and Lisa, my sister, talks about it all the time. Remember when Kristen was at Disneyland? So
remember when we liked her?
Yeah.
Let's be honest about teenagers. Remember when they were nice to us?
She's 19, so she's kind of coming back.
She's coming back now. All right.
Exactly.
Right. Remember when you were a joy? I do want to talk about, because I talk about it a lot when I do speeches, of the lessons that kids learn while on vacation. And for instance, I talk a lot about city vacations and how important they are to expose children to different cultural ethnicities, and maybe go out for Ethiopian food. You've never been there. Try to talk to someone who speaks Spanish. Really broaden their horizons. Susan, I would love to hear about some of your tips coming from a psychologist's point of view of just how can kids manage a vacation like this?
Well, there are a number of ways. I mean, first of all, giving children the power, or it's empowering for them to be able to choose. It makes parents choose where they're going to go this day. Mm-hmm. It makes children feel as if they're valued, their ideas are important. Mm-hmm. But there's more. There's the whole idea of organization. They have so much time. How are they going to fill it? They get organizational skills and the cooperation factor I mentioned earlier. You may spark an interest that becomes lifelong in your child. Let's say you have a child that's interested in animals, and you go over to Animal Kingdom. It's like, oh, and then you wind up down the road with a vet in your family. Mm-hmm. There's even money management kinds of things. You have X to spend today.
Oh, that's a very good tip.
Yes.
So you're surrounded by things that a child wants to have. So
or you can say you can have one thing each day. But so those are all skills they learn. They also learn on vacations, and parents are key role models. So if you have a delay at the airport, how are you handling it as the parent? Because your children are really watching you. You are their key teachers. I mean, a lot of people like to say, oh, it's your peers. It's not the peers. It is the parents. What do you do when your luggage gets lost? I mean, those are two simple examples of the many things that can go wrong. So there's benefits in that, because as a parent, what you're trying to do is develop your child to be an independent person who can handle him or herself on her own. So every lesson, but parents don't think of these as lessons, but they are important value added to a vacation. So those are some of the learning experiences and benefits that we don't often think of as concrete. I went to X today.
Right. You think the child just takes in, I had blueberry ice cream. But in fact, they understood the power of money, of handing over, I had $2, I was able to get an ice cream cone. Both Leslie and Susan, how would you handle, because Disney has been described as being overwhelming for a lot of people. There is a lot to do here. Attractions, fireworks, rides. How do you help parents and children navigate the parks and disconnect? Do you have techniques or tools that you implement?
Yeah, we have a lot of things that help. Number one, we hear that a lot of parents let the kids be part of the planning process, which is great. And like I mentioned before, letting them lead the way. We have things like Mobile Magic, which is where you can plan your trip. You can have it on your smartphone. You can see where FastPass is. You can see attraction wait times, things like that. It really helps you to navigate the parks. We also have PhotoPass, which is really great. It allows you to be in the moment. You don't have to be the one taking the pictures all the time. You can actually be in the pictures and really get a chance to step back and be, like I said, be in the moment and enjoy and really disconnect. So we have a number of tools that really allow people to just disconnect, be in the moment, enjoy it, and that's what it's really about.
Susan, talk to us about downtime.
Yeah, I was saying.
Because that was a great.
Yeah, you need to factor in downtime. Not only to avoid exhaustion, because in parents who want this perfect vacation, push and push and push, and most children can't handle it. It's overload. So you want to process in some downtime, and also add in or reserve some time to talk about what you did that day. What did you see? What did you like? What you didn't like? It kind of reinforces what will become a memory later. But if you just keep running, there's no time to even. Nothing will register to build that memory. So the downtime is important. Some people like to write in journals. That's another way to do it.
But you're saying just simply talk to your child and say, how was your day today? What did you learn today on vacation? What did you do? What did you like? Is so important. I love that tip. I'm going to take it as my own. So you'll see it in mine. Samantha Brown's Best Family Tips, and I'm going to take that one. Thank you very much. Dan, just again, last question. Last question to you. How many children do you have?
I have 7 children. No, I have 2 kids.
Hence the thinning hair, which I don't see, by the way. I see
no, it's there. By the way, we call it when we're on vacation, downtime is margarita time. Yeah. So I have 2 kids. I have a 2.5 and a 4.5.
Wow. And doing this study, so many parents, did it reveal anything to you as a parent that you didn't know?
It did. It did. It made me realize that I am no different than any of the families I study. That my life moves too fast, and my wife works as well, and we often we have skipped vacations because work's just too important.
Wow.
It just forced us to stop and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not right. And so we now look at vacations as mandatory, which is a good thing.
I think that's a great point to end this discussion on, because I absolutely believe with you, vacation travel is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And thank you so much for your insights, all of you. Please, a round of applause for Dan.